The sun rose slowly over the hills of Okuto Kingdom, painting the land in gold. The morning breeze whispered through the palm trees. Birds sang their sweet songs as if to bless the new day. The village came alive, women sweeping the compounds, children chasing one another, and the sound of pounding yam echoing from far huts. But inside the palace, the air was heavy with silence. For many years, King Obaro, ruler of Okuto, had lived without the one thing his heart desired, a child. He had wealth, power, and honor. His name was sung across the land, and his warriors feared no enemy. Yet at night, when the moon climbed high and the palace grew quiet, his heart cried in secret. For what is a king without an heir? An African proverb says, a tree without roots cannot stand the storm. And that is how the king felt, like a tree waiting to fall. The queen, Awil, was as beautiful as the rising sun, but her womb remained silent. The priest had come, the healers had tried, and the sacrifices had been made, yet the cry of a baby never filled the palace halls. Every festival, the women would dance and sing, but the queen would sit quietly, her eyes dim with sorrow. Among all the servants in the palace, there was one man who stood out like a lone star in the dark sky. His name was Ikenna. He was not like the others. He had only one eye. Many years ago, he lost the other eye while saving a child from a wild beast in the forest. The beast attacked, and Ikenna, without fear, placed himself in harm's way. The child lived, but Ikenna carried the scar for life. From that day, people called him the one-eyed servant. Many mocked him behind closed doors, but the king never did. King Obaro loved Ikenna more than gold. Why? Because Ikenna was faithful. He spoke little but worked much. He never lied. He never betrayed. He was a servant, yes, but in the king's heart, he was more, a brother, a friend, a shield. One bright morning, when the cock crowed and the first rays of light touched the palace walls, the king sent for Ikenna. The servant came quickly, his step steady, his head bowed. He knelt before the king. "Rise, Ikenna," the king said softly. His voice was low, almost trembling. Ikenna rose and looked at him with his one good eye, the eye that had seen battles and storms, but never fear. "Your Majesty, you called for me." The king stared at him for a long time, his heart heavy like a pot full of stones. Then he spoke, his words slow and painful. "Ikenna, you have served me for many years. You are more than a servant to me. You are my strength in the day of trouble. But today, I must tell you something that burns my heart like fire." Ikenna stepped closer. "Speak, my king. My life is yours." The king turned his eyes to the window, watching the far hills as if searching for courage. "Finally," he said, "the priest came to me last night. They spoke the words of the gods. If I want a child, I must give them something precious. Something I love more than anything. Only then will my wife bear a son." Ikenna felt his chest grow tight. "And what do they ask for, my king?" The king's voice broke like a weak branch. His eyes filled with tears. "They ask for the life of a loyal friend." Silence fell like night. The words hung in the air, heavy and cold. The king could not look at him. His hands shook. His crown felt like a burden on his head. Ikenna's single eye shone like the moon. Slowly, he stepped forward and placed his rough, calloused hand on the king's shoulder. His voice was calm, but deep, like the sound of distant drums. "If my life will bring you joy, then let it be so." The king turned sharply, tears rolling down his cheeks. "No. I cannot do this to you. You are the one man who never left me. When my brothers plotted against me, you stood by me. When enemies rose, you fought for me. You have been my rock, Ikenna. How can I take your life?" But Ikenna smiled, a gentle smile, full of peace. "Your Majesty, a king without a child is like a river without water. Let my life be the rain that fills your river. Let my blood give life to your dream. The king covered his face and wept like a child. For the first time, the mighty ruler of Okuta could not hide his pain. That night, the drums of the shrine echoed across the kingdom. Boom, boom, boom. The sound was heavy, like the heartbeat of the earth. The moon climbed high, round and bright, watching from the sky like the eye of the gods. People gathered at the sacred ground, their faces lit by the fire that danced and cracked. They whispered among themselves, for they knew what was about to happen. A great sacrifice was coming, one that would change the kingdom forever. Ikenna walked slowly to the altar. His steps were steady. His head was high. He wore a white cloth, simple and pure. The wind blew gently, touching his face as if the earth itself wanted to honor him. He did not tremble. He did not cry. His one eye glowed in the firelight like silver. The king stood nearby, his heart breaking with every step Ikenna took. His chest burned. His throat was dry. He wanted to scream, to stop everything, but the drums were loud and the eyes of the people were watching. The gods had spoken. And who can fight the gods? When Ikenna reached the altar, he turned to the king. His voice was strong, but his words were soft. Take care of the child that will come. Teach him to love justice. Teach him to love mercy. And when he asks about me, tell him about the servant who loved his father more than life. The king fell on his knees, his cry piercing the night like the wail of a mother who lost her child. But it was too late. The blade rose, shining under the moonlight. And then the silence of the forest swallowed the sound. The one-eyed servant gave his life without fear, without anger, only love. Months passed. The queen gave birth to a strong baby boy, and the kingdom sang songs of joy. Drums echoed in every corner. Women danced in circles, their wrappers flying, their beats shaking with the rhythm of life. The people shouted the child's name to the sky. But in the heart of the king, there was no laughter. He smiled for the people, but inside, his soul was broken. Every time he looked at his son, his heart whispered the name of the man who was no more. Every year, on the boy's birthday, King Obaro would walk to the great Iroko tree where he and Ikenna once sat together. He would kneel on the quiet earth, his crown set aside, his robe trailing in the dust. And in the silence of the forest, he would whisper into the wind, "Forgive me, Ikenna. Forgive your king." And so, the story of the king and his one-eyed servant lived forever in Okuta. Mothers told it to their children by the fireside. Drummers sang it in the marketplace. It became a song of love, loyalty, and sacrifice. A story that taught the people that true friendship is stronger than fear, and that some hearts are so pure, even death cannot silence them. For as the elders say, the sun never forgets a small village. And Okuta never forgot the man with one eye who gave his life for love.